Hi, Maria.
Hi, Renzo.
Welcome to another episode. It's a pleasure to be here with you to talk about Spanish phrases because this is
Just a Spanish phrase, and we are the companion podcast of News in Slow Spanish.
So today we have a really interesting phrase. It doesn't actually have a direct equivalent in English, which is interesting in its own.
I
in its own
love
way.
that. I love cultural things that are impossible to translate.
Yes, exactly. But there are ways to express this idea. But before we jump into that, the phrase itself is Barriga llena, corazón contento.
I love it. Of course, is how would you say it? That's like when your stomach is full, your heart is happy.
That's right. Full belly, happy heart is how I've heard it translated before. It's just not an established English phrase the way that barriga llena, corazón contento is in Spanish. But what's really interesting about this is that in doing the research, you know what came to mind? I think you can guess what came to mind, for me at least, when I was looking at this phrase, which of course means if your belly is full, your heart is happy, like you said.
Well, to me, like Italian food comes to mind, French food comes to mind. Oh, French bread with a little bit of butter comes
you're
to
making
mind.
me hungry.
Nutella. I mean, I can tell you all the things that come to mind that I'm smiling only by thinking of them.
And my mouth is watering. And that should have been what came to mind. But I guess I'm a cynic or something, because the first thing that I thought of is how Ozempic is taking over our
Oh,
society.
okay.
The cultural dialogue is all around weight loss again. It's around this, not just Ozempic, but this whole family of weight loss drugs that are revolutionizing the way that people lose weight.
So instead of thinking of a happy full belly, you're thinking of an empty sad belly.
Because it made me think, if a full belly means a happy heart, is the opposite also true? An empty belly means a sad heart?
Well, you know what I'm going to say? I'm always for the middle way. You know, if you overeat and you are extremely overweight, your heart is not happy.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're undereat and you're extremely underweight, your heart is not happy either. So I think like eating what you love in sensible amounts is what keeps your heart happy, because you look at yourself in the mirror, you're happy, and you health results are happy, but your belly is satisfied because you're eating delicious stuff.
I think you nailed it. But I should say, I do think that these weight loss drugs, when used correctly, they're really helping a lot of people. There's no doubt there. I think maybe the issue that's coming up in the cultural dialogue around these things is that some people are abusing them. Maybe some people that don't need them are using them. And that's where it gets problematic.
But also you're losing, for what I read, it makes you lose your appetite. So how can you be, I don't know, happy if you have no appetite for
life?
Yes. for fulfilling your senses through smell, through vision, through like food fulfill every single smell, like you know, every single smell, no, every single sense, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the taste, and the touch.
Well, I think then we start getting into a philosophical argument, because if happiness comes from finding contentment in fulfilling desires, but there's something that takes away your desires, then can you find happiness still?
Okay, so can you find happiness if you have no desire? That's a good question that I've always wondered, like studying Eastern philosophies.
Buddhism.
Yes, Buddhism, you know, I love it. It's all about not having attachment or aversion. So, but it's like, how can you find excitement if you don't have attachment? Like, I feel I have attachment for art, for food, for music, for people. So you know, but attachment can be like too much.
Hey, we may be onto something here. Maybe Buddhist enlightenment and Ozempic go hand in hand.
Imagine.
I'm sorry.
In a couple of years, everybody started like, oh, I found the way.
That actually sounds pretty nice. You tell me that in a couple of years we're going to have a society full of content individuals.
Well, have you seen the series Pluribus by the same creator of Breaking Bad?
I started. Yeah, it is amazing. I really like that show.
It's a good philosophical question. It's like, is if all society becomes altruistic
Yeah.
and kind and forgets about themselves in the sake of the greater good,
Yeah, yeah.
it sounds perfect, but is it?
Well, you have to watch the show, I guess, to find out. But speaking of which, and without spoiling too much, if there's no hunger anymore because resources are equally distributed, then barriga llena, corazón contento, right? If you have a full belly, if you want for nothing, then are you happy? This phrase, I did a little digging, and it turns out, like many phrases, so it's okay, it happens, doesn't have a unique or very specific origin. It sort of emerges from the cultural tradition in Spain and then becomes hugely popular in Latin America. Now, it's still popular in Spain, but I found it really interesting that it becomes so popular in Latin America because you know, I don't know about you, but I suspect that you probably were raised in a household where eating and like cleaning your plate maybe was highly regarded. I don't know. I had a
Oh,
grandma who was
yes.
always saying you have to clean your plate. You have to, and she would use this phrase "barriga llena, corazón contento" all the time.
But then it's both Latin American cultures and European cultures,
Hmm.
France, Italy, Spain, are very food oriented cultures. Food is a source of joy, of sharing. And I think I've mentioned this before, but there's a word that is very popular in Europe and Latin America that does not exist here, which is
Hmm.
sobremesa,
Yes.
which is the moment when you talk about tons of things after you ate and while you're sipping like little digestive.
Hmm.
Another concept that I think was born here but didn't really exist in those food oriented cultures is fast food. And that's why, in reaction to that, in Italy, the slow food movement was
Yep.
born.
Yep. As a reaction to fast food, to counteract the effects of food that's so fast that it robs you of that social element. I read recently about how in France they still in public schools they still put a lot of time and resources into serving um, multi-course meals to children because it teaches them to have that sobremesa, that social element to eating and spending more times. And I get sad every time I think about like my own child and kids at school here that meal times in public schools in the United States seem to be shrinking. And year over year, they allot less time for eating.
Food is such a reflection of society. It's very interesting. Not only mealtimes in schools, lunch breaks.
Yeah.
In I worked for the French embassy in Venezuela. I've lived in Spain. Lunch break there is 2 hours. It includes a long meal with your family, with your friends. You can have a glass of wine and then a siesta
Hmm.
if you want. But at least in the French embassy, it was at least 1 hour lunch break with wine. It's normal.
It makes a huge difference.
Here, lunch break is in front of your computer, 15 minutes.
I'm sad to admit that I've done that many times. Okay, but going back to the phrase barriga llena, corazón contento, I think what we're landing on here, what we're discovering is that it's not literal. It's not like so many phrases. It's not just about literally the food in your belly. There's a fullness that comes out of the ritual as well. The sobremesa, the
Well, but
time spent.
I literally get hangry.
Oh, hangry. That's a modern expression in English, which is what the opposite, right? If
When you're
you're,
hungry, you
yeah.
cannot be happy.
And with that, I think we're going to end this episode of Just a Spanish
To
Phrase
go
and go get
eat.
something to eat.
Let's do it.
And to everybody listening, please check out News in Slow Spanish, where we can actually talk about expressions like this and any topic that interests you on our platform rooms.
Yeah, let's talk about food in the rooms. We'll see you there.
Bye.
Adios.